Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his greasy hand, leaving another dark smear across his already dirty face. The twin sons of Kepler 442b beat down mercilessly on the scrapyard where he worked, turning every piece of metal into a scalding brand waiting to burn unwary flesh. The air shimmered with heat waves that made the distant mountains look like they were dancing. He had been on this alien world for 3 years now, ever since the Transport Guild had hired him to maintain their fleet of cargo haulers. The pay was good, better than anything he could have found back on Earth. But the isolation was slowly eating away at him. Most days, he saw more aliens than humans. And while he had learned to communicate with the various species that frequented the spaceport, genuine friendship seemed impossible across such vast cultural divides. The Zelhari, who owned this particular yard, were a proud reptilian species with scales that changed color based on their emotions. They stood nearly 8 feet tall and had a strict hierarchy that reminded Marcus of ancient Earth military structures. They respected strength and efficiency above all else, which made his job easier in some ways and harder in others. They paid him well because he could fix things they could not, but they never let him forget that he was an outsider. Marcus crouched beside the massive engine of a Zelhari freighter, running his scanner over the quantum manifold. The readings were all wrong. What should have been a steady blue glow was flickering between orange and red, indicating massive stress fractures in the crystalline matrix that powered the ship. This was going to be a long job, probably requiring him to fabricate entirely new components from the raw materials in his workshop. A distant sound made him pause. It was faint, almost lost in the hum of machinery and the constant buzz of insects that seemed to thrive in the planet's humid atmosphere. Marcus tilted his head, straining to hear it again. There it was. A weak, pitiful whimpering that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the main yard, in the direction of the waste disposal area. The Zelhari had strict policies about scavenging in their disposal zones. Workers were forbidden from taking anything without explicit permission, and the penalties for violation were severe. But that sound, it was clearly distressed, and Marcus had always had a soft spot for creatures in trouble. Back on Earth, he had volunteered at animal shelters in his spare time, finding peace in helping beings that could not help themselves. He glanced around the yard. The Zelhari supervisors were all focused on a heated discussion near the main gate, their scales shifting through various shades of yellow and red as they argued about shipping schedules. None of them were looking in his direction. Marcus made his decision quickly, setting down his tools and walking casually toward the disposal area as if he had legitimate business there. The waste zone was a depressing sight. Mountains of discarded machinery, broken electronics, and organic refuse created a maze of trash that stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction. The smell was overwhelming, a mixture of rotting food, chemical waste, and something else that Marcus could not quite identify. He followed the sound, which was growing weaker by the minute, deeper into the labyrinth of garbage. It took him nearly 10 minutes to locate the source. In a small clearing between 2 towering piles of scrap metal, he found something that made his heart clench with anger and sadness. A small creature, no larger than an earth puppy, lay motionless on its side. Its fur was pure white, almost luminescent in the harsh sunlight, and its body was covered with wounds that suggested it had been beaten before being thrown away like trash. Marcus had never seen anything like it before. The creature had the general shape of a wolf, but its proportions were different. Longer legs, a more slender build, and ears that were almost elfin in their pointed elegance. Its tail was long and fluffy, marked with faint silver stripes that seemed to shift and shimmer as he watched. Most striking of all were its eyes, which flickered open as he approached. They were a brilliant violet color, unlike anything he had ever seen in any earth animal. The creature tried to lift its head when it saw him, but the effort was too much. It collapsed back onto the ground with a tiny whimper that broke Marcus's heart. He could see the rapid rise and fall of its chest, the labored breathing that suggested serious internal injuries. Without thinking, he knelt beside it and gently extended his hand, palm up, in the universal gesture of peaceful intent. The creature's violet eyes tracked his movements, and Marcus was struck by the intelligence he saw there. This was not just some wild animal. There was awareness, understanding, even hope in that gaze. The little being seemed to recognize that he meant no harm, and after a moment's hesitation, it tried to lift its head again, this time managing to touch its small black nose to his fingertips. "Hey there, little one," Marcus whispered, keeping his voice soft and soothing. "What happened to you? Who would do this?" As he spoke, he carefully examined the creature's injuries. There were several deep gashes along its sides that looked like claw marks, but they were too regular, too precise to be from a natural predator. These wounds had been inflicted deliberately, methodically. Someone had hurt this creature on purpose, and then thrown it away to die slowly in the heat and stench of the waste zone. Marcus felt his anger growing, a cold fury that made his hands shake slightly as he continued his examination. The creature was severely dehydrated, its gums pale, and its skin loose when he gently pinched it. It had probably been here for hours, maybe even a full day, much longer, and it would not survive. He looked around quickly, making sure he was still alone, then carefully slipped his arms under the creature's small body. It was lighter than he had expected, probably weighing no more than 10 or 15 pounds. The creature whined softly as he lifted it, but did not struggle. If anything, it seemed to press closer to his chest, as if seeking the comfort of his warmth and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Getting back to his workshop without being seen was going to be challenging. Marcus chose a route that took him around the edge of the yard, using the larger pieces of machinery as cover. The creature remained still in his arms, its breathing shallow, but steady. Twice, he had to duck behind cover as Zelhari's supervisors passed nearby, their heavy footsteps making the ground vibrate. His workshop was a large, prefabricated building on the outskirts of the main facility. The Transport Guild had provided it as part of his contract, and it was equipped with everything he needed to maintain and repair the various types of spacecraft that used the port. More importantly for his current situation, it had a small living area in the back where he could work on the creature without interruption. Marcus activated the door with his biometric scanner and slipped inside quickly. The cool, filtered air of the workshop was a relief after the oppressive heat outside. He carried the creature to his workbench, where he kept a well-stocked first aid kit designed for treating injuries to various alien species. The Transport Guild had insisted on the comprehensive medical supplies, knowing that their mechanics often had to provide emergency care for crew members of different species. He gently laid the creature on a soft cloth and began a more thorough examination. The wounds were definitely deliberate, precise cuts that had been designed to cause maximum pain without immediately killing. Whoever had done this had wanted the creature to suffer. Marcus felt his anger intensify as he cleaned the wounds with antiseptic solution. The creature remained still during his ministrations, watching him with those incredible violet eyes. There was trust there now, Marcus realized. Somehow, this small being understood that he was trying to help. It was a humbling experience, knowing that something so badly hurt was willing to place its life in his hands. As he worked, Marcus found himself talking to the creature in soft, reassuring tones. "You're safe now, little one. I know it hurts, but I'm going to fix you up. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. I promise." The medical scanner from his first aid kit revealed the extent of the internal damage. There were several cracked ribs, extensive bruising, and what appeared to be a concussion. The creature had been beaten severely before being dumped in the waste zone. Marcus felt sick as he realized the level of cruelty involved. He carefully applied healing gel to each wound, then wrapped the creature's torso with medical bandages. The gel contained nanobots designed to accelerate healing in multiple species, and he hoped they would be compatible with whatever this little being was. The creature seemed to relax as the pain-relieving properties of the gel took effect, its breathing becoming deeper and more regular. Water was the next priority. The creature was severely dehydrated, but Marcus had to be careful about how much he gave it at once. He mixed a small amount of electrolyte solution and offered it from a shallow dish. The creature lapped at it eagerly, its small pink tongue working quickly to get every drop. As the immediate medical crisis passed, Marcus found himself wondering what kind of creature this was. He had been on Kepler 442b for 3 years and had encountered dozens of different species, but he had never seen anything like this albino wolf-like being. Its bone structure was clearly carnivorous, but its behavior seemed more like that of an intelligent companion animal than a wild predator. He activated his computer and began searching through the planetary database. The Transport Guild maintained extensive records of all known species on the worlds they serviced, including detailed biological and cultural information. It took him nearly an hour of searching before he found what he was looking for. The creature was called a Lunari, and the entry made Marcus's blood run cold. Lunari were highly intelligent, pack-hunting predators native to the forested regions of Kepler 442b. They had their own complex society and were considered a sentient species by galactic law. What made this discovery even more disturbing was the additional information about albino Lunari specifically. In Lunari society, albinism was considered a curse from their ancient gods. Albino pups were traditionally killed at birth, or, in more merciful communities, abandoned in the wilderness to die. They were believed to bring misfortune to any pack that allowed them to live. The practice was technically illegal under galactic sentient rights laws, but local enforcement was virtually non-existent in the remote territories where most Lunari lived. Marcus stared at the screen, feeling a mixture of horror and determination growing in his chest. This was not just some random animal that had been hurt. This was a sentient being, essentially a child, who had been condemned to death because of its appearance. The wounds he had treated were probably inflicted by its own pack, a ritual beating designed to drive it away before abandoning it to die. He looked down at the small creature, which had curled up on the soft cloth and appeared to be sleeping. Its white fur rose and fell with each breath, and occasionally its legs would twitch as if it were dreaming. Despite everything it had endured, there was something peaceful about its expression, as if it finally felt safe for the first time in its short life. "Well, little one," Marcus whispered, "looks like you and I are both outcasts here, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let you die because of some superstitious nonsense." He spent the rest of the afternoon researching Lunari biology and behavior. The more he learned, the more impressed he became with their intelligence and social complexity. Adult Lunari were capable of learning multiple languages, using tools, and even basic mathematical concepts. Their pack structures were sophisticated, with complex hierarchies based on both physical prowess and intellectual ability. Unfortunately, their treatment of albinos remained a dark stain on their otherwise advanced civilization. The database contained dozens of reports from different worlds where albino Lunari had been found dead or dying, abandoned by their packs. Very few had ever survived to adulthood, and those that did were forced to live as solitary outcasts. As the day wore on, Marcus found himself making plans. He could not simply release the creature back into the wild. It would either be recaptured by its original pack or killed by other predators that would see its white fur as an easy target. But keeping it was going to be extremely difficult. The Zelhari authorities would not look kindly on a human harboring what they would consider a dangerous predator, regardless of its age or condition. The creature woke up several times throughout the afternoon, each time seeming a little stronger. Marcus continued to give it small amounts of water and electrolyte solution, and by evening it was able to lift its head for extended periods. The intelligence in its violet eyes was becoming more apparent as it recovered, and Marcus found himself wondering what it was thinking. As the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Marcus made his decision. He could not abandon this creature to die, and he could not return it to a society that would kill it for something beyond its control. That left only one option. He would have to find a way to care for it himself, at least until it was old enough and strong enough to make its own choices about its future. The challenges would be enormous. He would have to hide the creature from the Zelhari authorities, find appropriate food for a carnivorous species he knew little about, and somehow provide the social interaction that pack animals needed for proper development. But as he looked down at the small white form sleeping peacefully on his workbench, Marcus knew he could not make any other choice. "Tomorrow we start figuring out how to keep you alive," he murmured, gently stroking the creature's soft fur. "And maybe, just maybe, we can prove that being different doesn't have to mean being alone." Outside, the sounds of the spaceport continued. The roar of engines, the clank of machinery, the distant voices of a dozen different species conducting their business under the alien stars. But inside Marcus's workshop, For the first time in months, neither human nor Lunari slept alone.